Good evening, good evening. Hopefully everybody is okay. I've got a lot of stuff that I've been keeping track on, taking notes. If you're unaware, for those who don't really follow me as much, I have been on the road. We went all over the place, multi-states, tons of stores over the holidays. I took off the holidays for the first time in quite a little while. I'll be talking about that in another video and let you know the results, what happens when you put your store on vacation mode. I'll tell you how to set it up the best way where you're not going to get dinged or anything else. As long as you set it up right, there's no big issues with it. You won't make as much money, I can promise you that. But anyway, I'll give you the results. You'll see that for those who are interested. I don't source normally like everybody else. I don't go but a few places at a time. I don't randomly drive around. I don't just go to thrift stores and things like that. Not because there's anything wrong with it. I just don't need to do it that way. Everybody has their own way. Around here, though, if I had to survive on going to thrift stores, I'd be starving to death because there's just nothing. And again, we went all the way down through the Smoky Mountains. We were in the hills and in the whole works. Whole family went. It was a family ordeal. We didn't do anything, obviously, Christmas. We were out even Christmas Eve shopping. For me, that's enjoyment. I did that before we ever did eBay. My wife did that before we actually met. I went to garage sales as a child. In fact, I was just talking about that with my kids. My son wanted to know who the lead singer of the Talking Heads was. And that is, Little Creatures is my first album I ever owned in my life. It was bought at a garage sale for $quarter back a year or two after it came out or something, maybe 80 or something. I don't remember the year. I just remember that was the first record I ever owned, first LP in my collection here. I still have a copy of it here. I don't think it's the original, but anyway, I've been into this stuff for a very long time. For us, and people may think that's weird, I don't mind going out and sourcing and looking at stuff. We didn't have to make anything. I didn't have to find anything. So it was more of a educational aspect for me a little bit too, because I don't go out there like everybody else does. So I wanted to see the prices and everything, and that's where this video is coming from, as well as all of the new changes. And there are a lot of them coming, some unannounced, some that are coming from corporate America. I'll throw out VERO to start with for just a second here, because a lot of people don't know what the VERO program is. I've been hit with VEROs. I openly have talked about Richard Pryor. I was on Dom's channel the other night with Kat the Nurse Flipper, and not on the show. I was in their feed and stuff and chat and stuff. It's all over the place if you're not aware of what it is. The amount of stuff showing up on the VERO page has grown and grown and grown, and it's added. And just because they're not on the VERO page doesn't mean they can't VERO you and pull stuff down either. So every angle that you look at, the reselling industry is going to be, I will say, attacked to some extent. Now, this isn't the sky is falling video. This is just the hard truth of what's going on, including taxes that are changing, shipping costs on not just the Postal Service, but FedEx and most of the other ones, other than UPS. UPS is flat. They're staying the same. Corporate America as well has gotten their fingers into what has been going on with the changes in shopping. There's a big, huge picture, and so many people are only looking at the one little aspect of it. I read, some of the Wall Street Journal, and there's a few other well-to-do places that talk about business and stocks. My business is run, in this atmosphere, so I have to know what's going on. I have to know where value is, where my money and time is worth spending on. If you're not spending your time, I'll get to the feed. I do apologize, but I get hit up all the time. So I want to hit a whole bunch of questions. I wrote some down. I know I don't get to all the questions, but these are what's important for today's discussion. There's about 15 or so issues, things you can do, and things along that line to help your business in 2022. VEROs. So VEROs are a huge issue. They're getting bigger. There's more of them. Let me throw this out there because this all ties to what corporate America is doing. It all ties to the anger towards some resellers and the looks you get when you're out in public. I've been talked down to by people many times. I've been asked to leave Target before on a couple of occasions. I've been asked to leave Walmart once before, get out of their store. Target was the worst, though. So IRA. So I run into people wondering what you're doing. I've run into people yelling and stuff. I don't film like a lot of other people do, but I know that anger is out there. I've read some boards, I've read some complaints at international as well as U.S. businesses that run retail in this country. There's a bad name going around in that. And not only is there a bad name going around in that with people going in and buying every toy on there so they can mark it up for $100, $200 profit on Amazon. Now, I'm guilty of some of that too, so I'm not going to say it's wrong. We're doing a service, a business for ourselves. You know, we're not out there to be nice and make friends with everybody, buddy. But when you're working, you're out there for a job. And far too many people can't separate the business side from the personal side. I don't hold personal grudges when it's a work-related issue. When work's done, there's a wall. I shut it off and I'm with my family and I don't worry about all that stuff. But the amount of complaints that are coming in, the fact that I see stickers on grocery stores for hundreds of miles telling people that if you see this product, these are markdown items, you see this product for sale anywhere other than Kroger's, please report it. I don't think there's anything they can do, but it's all threats. It's all coming after this. The whole aspect of buying secondhand has changed in the last 2 years because of the pandemic. It's not going to go back. That's the issue. I know a lot of people still want to shop, but there's a huge chunk of people that don't want to go out in public and shop anymore. They found it's easier, it's convenient, they don't have to waste gas and all these other expenses just to go out and buy something. And usually it's cheaper. The big businesses know that. They know where their sales are coming from right now. Just like you can tell, off platform, on platform, and if you're on different sites, you can see where your sales are coming from. Big business can too. I worked in big business. I worked for a national company. I was a regional manager. I handled like $11.2 million in my region. I didn't handle small stuff. I've seen what they do in corporate America for several years. I worked for Disney for 10. I know how some things are handled only because I've worked in those industries. I wasn't a reseller first and foremost. So corporate America sees where the money is coming from. This is important, and too many people are missing it. They see where the money's coming from. They see that used shoes like Nike, are making a ton of money. Who do you think would rather make that money or be able to dictate what things go for Nike shoes? It would be Nike. Again, I can't sell them on Amazon anymore. I've been not banned, but I couldn't provide invoices, and it ended my Nike sales career on Amazon. It was done. It's done. You can't provide invoices. I couldn't get them wholesale. Secondhand wouldn't cut it. Even if they were NOS, if I couldn't provide a wholesale invoice, I'm cut off on Amazon for that product. There's a couple video games they killed us on last year, a couple Nintendos, even though they said we could get back in. I can't. So, those are the breaks on stuff. If you sell on eBay and Amazon, you understand the whole, you need an invoice thing on Amazon. There isn't much leeway or challenge to that. Amazon controls the keys. eBay controls the keys for eBay, as they should. It's their company. It's their site. They make stupid decisions, bad decisions, but nothing we can do about that. Amazon does some few stupid decisions. We gave up books after they raised the storage fees twice. Wasn't worth sending them in for, FBA or anything else like that for us, because most of our bread and butter was those cheaper books that now cost, an arm and a leg. You have to add in shipping costs, which I know aren't very expensive sending them into the warehouse or anything, but unsweetened iced tea. I got to say that because somebody will email me and tell me stop drinking sugar, but anyway. So you've got to look at reselling from that aspect. The companies are going to want to try and net in the money from this. They're going to complain about you using like onesie or something else in the title of the listing. Richard Pryor is my personal worst ever takedown issue I've ever had was with the Richard Pryor estate. And I loved Richard Pryor. I've seen probably every single thing the guy's ever done. Everything. I was a big fan. Grew up back in those days. I still remember the Exorcism skit from, I believe it was Saturday Night Live. That was one of my favorites of his. But anyway, his estate went after me on every site I had product on that was Richard Pryor listed in the title. again, these products that I had were 8x10 promos. They're not records. You can sell records and all that kind of stuff. I was selling advertising material that CBS held the license to, not Richard Pryor's estate. I couldn't fight it. Nothing I could do. eBay, Amazon, Etsy, they all sided with Richard Pryor's estate. So they hit me on each platform at the same time. I was just bombarded with stuff like that. So it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how long it was on with stuff like new stuff especially. Richard Pryor is one of those odd ones. Most antiques, as long as you're not like misrepresenting a Chanel pen or those 14 karat gold ones that float all over and stuff like that. It's another one of the ones I got a VERO for years and years ago. But point is, new stuff, clothing, secondhand stuff like that. At some point, they could cut those off. I'm not saying it's going to definitely happen or anything, but there are more and more showing up on those lists right this very second. And I remember when there was no VERO program. Then I remember where it was on one single page. Everything that was VERO'd was on one single screen. They've opened up the floodgates when they added the backdoor gateway to corporations or whoever has access to it. They can, request stuff to be pulled down. So you're being attacked by stuff like that. I say attacked because it's a business, and you've got another competitor being eBay. eBay is a competitor to us in my book. So I've got to watch out and be careful, decide on maybe it's better to list something on another site. It's cheaper there, it'll sell better, fees are less, or whatever the case may be. Your whole point on a business is to streamline it and to get it as low cost as possible and get it where it's working like an assembly line. Henry Ford, he had a good plan there. Not that he was the only one, but you've got to do that going forward, more so now than ever before because of this. Now, I know I don't run into taxes and talk about that too much. We have an accountant. In fact, we have two accountants. One does one specific aspect, such as filing taxes, and then another one does our payroll figures. For vacation, too, if somebody asked, I'm sure there's going to be somebody curious. Nobody worked doing it either. They had the whole holiday off, so we didn't have new listings or anything else going for a week. Our store was on vacation mode for 5 business days. Dave's saying, long story short, the taxes are just the taxes aren't anything. I know everybody says, oh, we're going to be forced to pay taxes. You were already required to pay if you made over $500 or you made profit prior to this $600 minimum or maximum showing up. That was already required. Most people just didn't do it. Now you're going to be forced to do it if you're making a profit. If you're not making a profit on something, you don't have to report it as income. You didn't make anything. So if you bought a bicycle 5 years ago, a video game system 5 years ago for $300, and you sell it now for $250, you don't have to pay taxes on that. That's not income. That's not how it works with that. So the fact that they've added in a $600 where eBay is required to report it is just them trying to collect what already should have been collected. Because most places it's like $500. You make more than that or you make a profit. You already had to federally report it no matter what. That's the law. That's the law. If you make money. If you do a garage sale and you're making money, even if you're not running a business, technically you're supposed to report that. I ran a garage sale once and didn't know the city required me to have a permit. It was $5. The officer, they sent down the sheriff of the town. This was, where was it? It was in Mississippi. I can't remember the town, which place. Oh, geez, I wish I could remember the place, but it doesn't. Mendenhall. It was in Mendenhall, Mississippi. And the sheriff waited at the garage sale while I drove over there and bought the $5 license, drove back to show it to him. And he even bought something from the garage sale. But anyway, the point of it was he expressed that license is to show that there could be taxes due. That's just how it works. And that was years ago. So I'm not saying it's good or bad or whatever the case may be. I run a business, so I report everything either way it goes. If you don't, that's on you. I don't care if you don't report it or you do. That's on you. I'm not gonna go into that. It's your problem or your bonus or whatever you want to look at it. It's not my point to judge on something like that. I think shouldn't do it, but again, everybody has the reasons for whatever they do. It's none of my business what somebody else does like that. So you should have reported it anyway. But a lot of people are not reporting it, and they're going to be forced to do something with it. A lot of people may not have receipts for things that they have, which is going to put some grief, some aggravation into people's, daily lives, worried about taxes, worried about doing something wrong. So again, you've got the stress factor in this. A lot of people are now reselling, not like a full-fledged reseller yet. They're working their way into it. They just need extra money coming, and they need to pay their bills. Completely understandable from every point of the game on that. So there's a lot of people. It's going to change, once requirements like that are in there. Once people start looking at the fees or don't run businesses for a living and don't know how to manage their business. So there's going to be a tumble of some of those that are on. Again, I'm not wishing ill of anybody, but that's just what happens. It's not the first time something like this has happened. You can go back a few years when the big craze and .com and all that was on there. Same thing happened. It just kind of bubbled off and people stopped doing it. So, I'm in it for the long haul. Hopefully everybody who's watching is in it for the long haul. So, I'm just going to ride out whatever goes and keep on going with it. I have no complaints with sales right now because of what I sell. And that's the only reason. If I sold what a lot of other folks would sell, I couldn't get that here. Maybe you can there. I'm not saying it's a dead field if it's clothing or whatever the case may be. But I hated clothing. I hated the returns. I hated having to look at every little speck of it to make sure I didn't miss a pinhole somewhere that someone's going to nitpick and want to return it. Or a one stitch out in the armpit of a t-shirt, a $5, $10 t-shirt, and they're mad and they want it for free now. That's the kind of thing that happened when we sold clothing occasionally, when I first started. You get better at it, but I still, even when I'm outsourcing for clothing, or was, you'd look at it in the store, you'd spend a couple minutes looking at it, you get home and you'd still find out you missed something. It's just the way it goes with stuff like that. I know people who do just sell clothing and make a real good living at it. So I'm not saying, again, that that's bad. But for me, I can't do it. And I couldn't do it for hundreds of miles in a complete circle from where we're at because we've traveled that distance. We spent days on the road traveling around. I set my videos up ahead of time, didn't run a live show because I was on the road and the whole work. So I want to see what's going on. We had some time with the family. That's all we did is family stuff. We ran some who could make the most money, who could find the highest price stuff. We had some fun. We went out to dinner. It was a nice Christmas, other than not having snow. So I want to look at it from every angle here. This is a business thing. My trip was partially business to some extent, to figure out the lay of the land again, to see what's going on, to see what everybody else deals with, where the money's at, prices. We're going to talk about prices here too. Now, I haven't been to a decent thrift store in a couple of years. Before that, I didn't have to go. I'd just usually hit estate sales. I'm big on auctions, places like that. Pickers is what I usually get a lot of stuff from. The prices are through the roof at every single thrift store I went to, if they even had anything good. Some of them were big, huge thrift stores that I've been into a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, and we used to go to, probably been in a half a dozen times, most of the ones that we went to. I do a circle. We usually hit the ones, we've already honed out the ones that were good, and those are the ones we go to. Well, it's not that way anymore. There's almost nothing at the thrift stores. One of them, I didn't take a video because I didn't even think it was worth it, but maybe I should have, just to show you how little was on the shelves of this big, full-sized, geez, how big would it have been? It was like the size of a Kmart, an old Kmart. The standard size, not the big deluxe Kmart, but a regular Kmart. It was that big, and there was the shelves in the back that were glassware and metal and those kind of objects. Man, they were just, it was empty. It was bad. It wasn't in a ritzier part of town or anything else like that, but I've hit the ones here that are in the ritzy towns. We hit ones in Columbus, Cincinnati, Lexington, Bowling Green we went through, and even a little farther down than that, next state down. So I hit a bunch that we've hit before. I've hit the entire I-75 corridor before. We've went from Ohio all the way down to Florida and hit all those. We've done the I-10 before. I-10's a decent one too if you haven't done that. Goes through some nice areas, Alabama, Mobile. You got New Orleans on that route too. Right into Texas, a lot of good stores where there used to be. Prices are up everywhere. Prices are up everywhere on everything. Even at the garage sales that I've been to or seen in the modern day times these last few months or so, prices were even up there. The merchandise that's showing up is less quality because folks are having to keep the items they have now to save money. That's what we're seeing everywhere. A lot of people aren't returning to the workforce, so again, they're making stuff last longer. They might keep a pair of headphones. They might not upgrade their sound system. They might not worry about getting rid of records or something. They'll use it for music because they can't afford now for Sirius XM or whatever they happen to use, car, or whatever the case may be. All that's going on, all that's hitting. Again, we've got shipping fees that are going up across the board. Let me just touch on shipping fees for just a second here. I spent hours looking. I looked through like 62 pages of stuff on the post office's site. There is some comments that there could be, it passed or hasn't passed, Senate may or may not hang it over, that there could be some extra charges for size limits. Now, I'm not taking that for granted because everybody seems to forget we don't pay retail. All of those announcements are for retail only. Doesn't apply to us yet. eBay has a special deal for all kinds of stuff. The actual limit for first class shipping at retail for any post office in the country is only 13 ounces. Through eBay, you have 16. eBay would have to announce any change because they are so weeded in with the post office that they have to have the correct price in there. Until eBay says, hey, this is going to be the new prices on the site, I'm not worrying about it or even paying attention to it yet. Things can change in months on end as well. eBay, again, does not have, we don't pay retail price. You don't pay those prices that, that are on the site. Even the ones that I show you, those are retail prices only. Retail offers less services than we have for higher prices. eBay has a bulk deal. So don't worry about all that fuss at this point. And the only other thing I should say on that as well, too, if $3 or $4 is going to kill you on your items, you're selling the wrong stuff. That's the only thing I can tell you. If $3 or $4 would kill me on an item, I'm just not going to sell it. End of story. I'm done with it. I'll move on to something else. Clothing I got rid of. I got rid of books for the same reason. It wasn't worth me scanning books, and driving all over heck to scan books and then send them in to make $1.50, 98 cents, $2.75 on books. It just wasn't worth it, even quantity-wise. It cut my amount of profits first, in a third, and then another third took off when they added on the second increase, Amazon, the second increase on storage fees for FBA books. Books are heavy. Your disposal fees were running up too. So if I wanted to get them back, it was going to cost more. I could have them disposed, and again, that would cost me as well too. So, all this plays out, as time goes by. Things are going to change. If you can't afford the $4, move on to something else. If you don't know or can't figure out something else, you're going to have to dig in extremely hard and make yourself a map, draw a circle around, figure out what you're able to get anywhere in your local area. I don't care what it is. I know people who sell shipping supplies now. I sell them some. If I have extra eBay boxes, they get them. So you can sell anything you want. You've got customers, if you're, an eBayer, there's customers on eBay who will buy boxes. I get the free ones from eBay, and I usually just sell them if I don't need them. I don't make a huge profit, but I can sell them for about what I could buy them for locally. So I'm, it's free money. I'm not free, but, that's the point of it. FedEx I will never use. I don't even buy something from someone who uses FedEx. If they're going to ship something my way, FedEx, I won't use them. I've had nothing but troubles. I've had packages dropped off here multiple times that weren't for me. I've had packages of mine delivered who knows where. They don't come and pick stuff up. They promise you this. You respond, you send messages, nothing. Totally give up on anything FedEx. I don't use it. If the person says that they only ship FedEx and they can't ship my box somewhere else, I go to a different vendor, whether it's tape or whatever I'm ordering for my business. Just FYI. So we've got taxes. We've got the thrift store pricing structure. Everything at the thrift stores is going through the roof. Or the thrift stores are auctioning it off themselves. Now, again, I'm not saying this is dead. I'm not saying the sky's falling. What I'm saying is if you don't dig in, you want to be a lean, mean reselling machine. That's what you want to be. You want to streamline your whole darn business as much as you can. You want to make it so it's an assembly line so you can get stuff up quicker than anybody else out there. Why do I sell what I sell? It's quick, it's easy, I can get it up so simply, I can take a photo instantly, I can take a scan of it, I can drop it in a duplex. Everything that I do is easy, simple, and limits the amount of photos I have to take, limits the amount of storage, energy, shipping supplies. Everything that I sell has been streamlined as much as I can. Every process we do, every listing step we do is streamlined. You want to make it the leanest machine you can. You want to be a lean, mean reselling machine, and that's it. That's the biggest bet that's going to get you to advance your business. I don't care what else is going on. If you can streamline your business, you can cut out all the other nonsense. You can cut out spending money where you don't need to. Track your money, for crying out loud, too. That's another thing I hear. If you're new and you're not full-fledged into a business yet, it's understandable. But if you've been doing this for a year or two and you don't know where all your money's going, or you're not tracking your hours, you're not tracking your money, you're not going to be as productive as someone who is. End of story. That's the way it is. I know I'm kind of off on the feed here, but I want to cover all these issues here because these are questions I get all of the time. Like the public anger one, that's been brought up to me. People have sent me some videos while they were outsourcing, some really nasty ones. I can't. Hang on just a second here. The being lean and mean is more not being mean like you're an a-hole or anything else, pardon that, but you want to be aggressive with your business. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy yourself and have fun, but if you're not going to do that, you're not going to be productive, you're not going to be worrying about that, you're not going to be as successful. Going forward, it's going to be harder. There's just no doubt about it. Cost increases 5 to 10% on average for clothing or whatever you're buying. So if it's a $100 item, you're now paying $110. You're paying $10, maybe even $120 in some areas, over what you would have paid just 2 years ago for those very same items. I've seen it. I spent all that time. I got hours of video. We took a GoPro all over the place where we went. I've seen it. I compared prices in several states. I've compared prices even from the same business, the same store chain, from one city to the next. I've looked at overall prices. I sometimes even look at like rent and stuff because that does matter. It means that if rent's going up, people have less money to buy stuff. So even if there wasn't a pandemic, if the economy, inflation's rising and pay is not going with it, different story. But those are all key factors. If you want to make it, you're going to have to streamline every single aspect of your business. Cut out all the stupid expenses you don't need. I'll give you some on shipping supplies because that's usually, if you don't have employees, shipping supplies can be your biggest expense. And I know people pick them up and dumpster dive. Nothing wrong with that as long as the boxes are clean. Don't ever send some nasty looking box to somebody. It's an impression. You want to look good. I know sometimes they don't complain or people don't seem to care. At least that's what some people think. I don't like getting dirty boxes because who knows where my item came from. Did they wash it? Is it dirty? Is it nasty? All that kind of stuff. So you want to simplify it. If I buy boxes, I try to limit down the amount of varieties I get. So I'm only getting a very few amounts size-wise. And then I cut down the big ones. That saves me because I can buy more quantity of those fewer amounts of boxes instead of spending a higher price on 10 different sizes of boxes. If I buy bags, it's cheaper by far. You can save hundreds of dollars just by this one simple trick. If I do 1 mil bags for most like sheet music and things like that, 11 by 17 is my favorite size. I can ship sheet music any format. I can ship records any format, 78s, LPs, 45, 16 speed. I can ship any book almost in that, pretty much across the board. I can ship large size print ads, posters, rolled up in those. I only have to buy one bag, one size of bag, and I can ship all kinds of things in that one single bag. Most everybody else I know just buys this size of bag, that size of bag, that size of bag, but they're only buying 100, maybe 200, maybe if they're a bigger seller, 500 of those. I buy 10,000 11 by 17s, and I pay almost nothing for them. It cuts my shipping costs minimum like half of what other people's are for the sealing material. Don't ever use saran wrap either. Just FYI, don't ever use saran wrap to wrap paper, books, or any of that stuff. It's just not safe for the items. That's just one simple way you can cut your purchasing down and your costs for shipping if you are buying it. Now, I actually charge for shipping. I get the eBay discount for a shipping supply or for the actual shipping costs. I don't give my customers that discount. That discount covers my shipping supplies. So you might think, well, if that's covering your shipping supplies, why do you worry about that? Every dime I can lower from my shipping supply cost is another dime I put in my pocket. If I'm saving $300, which is at least bare bones minimum what I save over most people on shipping supplies a month, multiply that times 12. Multiply saving time on doing this or doing that, more productivity, you can increase that, saving time and money just by like turning off lights. You would be surprised how just changing over to LEDs and things like that are to save you cost, especially if you're using the old fluorescent tubes for your photo booths. I cut the costs down, and we have, like here, I might have 2 people photoing and using, you know, if we were using the fluorescents, these big bulbs for like 12 hours a day, 2 people. You know, and that runs a lot, especially with all the other equipment you need. The cameras are all wired up. I've got, you know, plugins for everything we have. That's a lot of equipment, a lot of power juice. We've cut our electric bill down in half. You know, and again, that may not seem like a huge to a lot of people, but a couple $100 a month. You can save, if you're a bigger business, $1,000 easily a month just by doing steps like that. That's $12,000 in your pocket at the end of the year. When eBay went from the old way prior to managed payments, and they changed the structure of how many free listings you get, we saved over $1,000 per store a month. Again, every single dime helps with what you do. One dime doesn't seem like much, but when you add it all together, that's what every company out in the real world does. Anybody who's running a real full-fledged big business is doing that. They're tracking hours, they're tracking time, they're tracking expenses, they're buying in bulk. I worked for a distribution company. I was like a commissary, and I was a regional for that same company for a while. It's all bought in bulk. It's sent to a central location. It's divided up, and then they broadcast it out to the stores. So they get the bulk purchase price instead of each store buying, you know, at a higher cost. It's the same thing you do when you buy your supplies or whatever. It's the same thing I do when I buy merchandise to sell. I buy it as cost effective as possible. If that means I got to shell out $1,000 to get a huge bulk lot, $5,000 to get a huge bulk lot, that's what I'm going to do, because I get it so much cheaper that way. Some of them are duds, some of them are not. But with those big massive purchases or, you know, buying supplies that way, you're saving. Streamline everything. Your time is the other waster. The biggest expense for most businesses, you know, a controllable expense, not like rent, you have to pay rent, but a controllable expense is labor. My employees run up the most amount of expense for my business. If you don't have employees, it's your time you are wasting on things that aren't work relevant that's running up and ruining your actual costs and your numbers. It's just a fact. You've got to be able to save time. If you're going to do anything, set it up an assembly line. If you're going to, you're shipping. Everything is ready. All my shipping supplies are ready 24/7. So all I've got to do is pick everything, is which I would do. I pick everything, then I seal it, and then I wrap it. And then as soon as it's all wrapped, I'm printing, you know, in the bulk shipping labels. Whether I got to do a couple of those or not, that's what I do. Stage everything else up. No matter what you do, listings the same way. I have a specific template. Not a template, but I've got a listing we always pull from. We always use that for whatever they're listing here. Everything is lined up. Everything, when I'm scanning stuff, it's all scanned in a specific order so I can list it easier, so I can not have to bop back and forth, so I don't have to change categories. I don't have to change item specifics. Anything I can get there. If you can save 6 minutes an hour, 6 minutes of your time an hour, every day of the week that you're working, that's a lot of time. That's that many more. You could increase the amount of items you're listing, 40 a week even in some cases. In 6 minutes, some folks, we can list 4 or 5 items probably if they're paper, 4 or 5 items, 2 photos, probably in that 6 minutes, or even more possibly. On a good day, there's a possibility you can get up, 5 items in 5 minutes, depending on the items. Again, easy to list, things you don't have to edit the photos and all that kind of stuff. It's doable. It's doable. It's not some crazy figure. So that's going to play a huge factor. And if you're not willing to do all that, you're going to have a harder time this year and every year after this going forward. You want to be that lean, mean reselling machine. There's no other way around it. You can't. I take it as a challenge. Whatever eBay is going to throw at me, I may be upset. It may be PO'd about it when the change is made, but I'm going to figure a way around it. And every single thing that they've thrown at us for decades, I've been able to get past it and keep moving forward. My sales right now, with all of the other BS that's gone on and the crash from October on the 12th with the update and stuff, I'm right where I should be. I have no complaints about my sales record right now. And if I wouldn't have went on vacation, I would have probably been up a very good percentage. So any dime I lost from October 12th to October 28th has already been made up. You know, that's the key here. But my foot is slammed down to the floor, the pedal, you know, the pedal to the metal right this second, because it's hot now. It's the time to hit on what's going on. The other factor is too that the prices you're getting for your stuff is going up. So you're going to have to pay more. And a lot of people don't see it that way. They're nervous. They don't want to sink some money into something. If you don't know the item, don't sink the money into it. But if you know your items, you've been doing this for a little while, don't be hesitant to stick a little more money into something to get something a little better off. The better item I get, the more money I make. Now, bulk is a different story. If you can get it in bulk, I would go after the bulk ones every single time. Quantity outrules everything else. I would rather sell, you know, 50, 10, $20 items than only one $100 item or one $200 item, because I'm going to make more on those smaller items. Again, it depends on what you're selling. I know I yapped for a little while here, but these are the issues that are going on. These are the issues that are going to affect resellers in 2022. There's already people freaking out and panicking all over the tax issue. Again, if you were making profit this year or last year or 5 years ago, you had to report it anyway. This is just going to catch up to those folks who weren't reporting it in the past. You know, so you just got to keep records, and it's very easy to keep business records, receipts, track it on a spreadsheet. Very simple. Very simple for a basic starter store for at least the first year or two, unless you start getting hammered and getting a ton of sales and you branch out. The more you branch out, the harder it gets, of course, but everything is doable. I started from scratch. I started from zero, just like everybody else. I don't give up. I don't care if somebody tells me no 100 times. I'm going to ask 101 if that's what it takes. So, you know, don't let it get to you that way. I know it's going to be tough. We did 3 years of ramen noodles and, you know, not being able to buy anything, you know, barely making it from sale to sale. So I've been there for 3 years. We used up all of our savings, everything we had, you know, so trust me, I've been down to the bottom of the barrel, I would say, for financial income. And we survived it, thank goodness. We've got a tight family, that does help. And I do have family that helps us these days, of course. But anyway, let me pop up. I probably can't read all the feedback, or maybe I can, I don't know. Maybe I'm just going to try and get to some, if there's anybody who's got some questions or comments on this, because this is important to a lot of people here, and so many people are missing the boat, so to speak, on this. It's going to be tougher. Anybody who's telling you it's not going to be a lot harder, not just a little bit. It's going to be throwing obstacles. The VERO program alone could cut off people's entire revenue stream. Adult magazines. I know, like Mr. Magazine and Dave and those guys, $1 Million Peddlers. They can switch up stuff. They've got other venues and opportunities to sell them above and beyond eBay. Most of you won't have that opportunity, you know. So keep that in heart there. If they decide to cut off, coins were cut off for most people for a while too. I've got hundreds of coins here that we just stopped listing. I won't list on eBay because of what they did, but they could cut off anything, you know. Antiques are fairly safe because they've been around. There's almost most of them, prior to a certain age, won't have any copyrights even on them. No one can go after you. They're in public domain, the imagery and all that kind of stuff. There's not new ones out there. Once you know what's out there, you don't have to learn anymore. It's not like somebody's still creating stuff like that. You know, used stuff is good if you get the right ones. Collectible fields and markets are what's hot right now. That's where most people are sinking it into. NFTs are just a way that corporate America can capitalize in a way that we won't, mostly, with fictitious collectibles. They don't, it's not, you're paying for a file like on an FT or NFT, and I'm not into that kind of stuff. It's just a corporate way to get, you know, us peons to invest in something where they don't have any labor or expense into it. It's free money for them. You know, it's an image or a video of something for a few seconds, and they might make $20,000 off of just the first initial sale of it. It's a scam in my book. I have to say it. You know, that's just my opinion on that. Yeah, people are going to make some money. I know Bitcoin, same thing, but it's not for me. I like tangible, hard, actual artifacts or items to sell. That's what I enjoy the most. So, again, I'll just run through some names real quick, and if anybody has any other comments on that, I got more topics here. But we've got ETC host. How are you doing this evening? No arguments towards eBay, but it all steams down to who we're selling on. ETC host there. Andrew Tellentree, good evening. Nicholas Tracy, how are you doing? Well, thank you very kindly. Always glad to help. Always glad to help. If you spend time and you're actually hardcore heavy into succeeding, you can do it. Anybody can do it. I can tell you that right now. I have a Patreon page, and most of the folks in there, they've been on for a while. Most of the folks, the majority of the folks who are on there, they're folks who want to learn every little aspect of this business. Some people have pages where if you don't get better at it, they'll kick you out. I'm not trying to kick anybody out, but I've seen stuff like that. So I wouldn't want somebody to think it's going to be easy either. That's the other thing I hear a lot of. Nothing in this world is easy. Everything, all my knowledge or whatever I sell, I've spent years, 30 plus years digging into and selling and messing with. So it's not like you're just going to turn a switch and you're going to know how to do all this stuff. Clothing's one story. Clothing's flooded. Clothing, you have a lot of competition. A lot of them were made, and there's a lot of buyers, but overall it's getting more flooded because it's easier for folks to get into first. It's going to change, so clothing, I think, will come back up in another year or so once folks get scared off or don't want to mess with taxes or whatever the case may be. They'll try to go to platforms like maybe Facebook where it's not reported. That's all going to change and stuff like that. Every site, has issues. You're just going to have to navigate the reselling world and come out ahead, I guess. Don't take anything as, they're going to end my business as all. Take it as a challenge. Write it on I've got a, what is it called? I've got the dry eraser boards, and we write stuff on those all the time. I've got plans, I've got goals, I've got numbers I want to hit all the time. Every day there's something on a board for a couple aspects of my business, and it's a motivational aspect too, so maybe I'll throw a motivational, try and get you some more motivation on it, because I know a lot of people struggle with that too. Hey, Aaron, how you doing, Aaron? Aaron Klug in the house. Hopefully everything is going well on your end. Mutton Ridge Finds, how are you doing? Baby steps. That's all. Everybody starts at zero. Everybody starts at zero. I had a little ins only because I grew up when a lot of the collectibles that I sell were just coming out, but everybody has their own ins and outs. You can sell anything these days. Anything. There's people that just sell rocks on eBay. Rocks. That's all they sell. Fossils and things like that. There's people that sell live plants. There's people that sell seeds, cloth, fabric, thread, finished products, crafts of every type. Every single type imaginable they sell in crafts. There's stuff that I just think so cool and out there and bizarre too that I would have never even thought of when I search on Etsy sometimes. If you found a niche that no one else is in, or it's very limited, even if it's a smaller niche, you can rake out. A lot of the items that we make a lot of money in are smaller niches where we have a market share, the lion's share of the entire market, because it's a smaller market. I'm not able to, I'm never going to be even in the top probably 100 on record sellers, but I can be in the top 5 or less, the top 2 on some smaller categories, and I do far better trying to do that than I ever do trying to dominate a major category. It's just not possible. Even postcards, I don't anywhere near, I'm a blip compared to some of the postcard sellers. There's postcard sellers that have 100,000 postcards, and for them, they might sell, I've seen on sale days where some postcard sellers might sell 300 postcards a day. And that's pretty darn good, because you're talking a little bit of time to pull out 300 postcards. In one of our busiest days, I've pulled out, I think, maybe 278 in one day, where we had to pack up not just postcards, but everything. And that was a chore with 2 people helping. It's a big chore. You think sales are great if you sell, but you might back up. Selling too much can hurt you too. You'll get some negative feedback, or eBay can ding your account if you don't get them in the mail at a certain point. I learned my lesson by running a couple sales, some really low sales, and it just flooded me with sales. Markdown sale I ran, and it did me some harm because I couldn't get them all out in the deadline. You know, I was up one day, I think I was even talking to Don, Primetime Treasure Hunter, about that. I was up till like 5 in the morning. We packed, the wife, me, and one of the kids packed for, I even had an employee for the first 2 or 3 hours. Packed, it was a long time, like 7 hours, maybe 8 hours straight. You know, I wanted to make sure in the morning I got it out. And then once I ran a sale, and I ran it overnight, in the morning I woke up and I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? There's no way I could have got it all out by my deadline. I called people and I had employees trying to come in, the wife, the kids, everybody. It's murder. I've never done that again. I mean, yeah, the money was okay, but man, I was so stressed out, you know, and I missed the deadline. I got dinged for late shipment. I have a day policy. I should have changed my shipping policy, but then I wouldn't have got top rated plus on those listings. But anyway, I know I'm rambling. Let's see where we're at. Stargazer, shoot, many changes on the horizon. All government eyes will be on reselling, waiting to hear what you came up with. Numerous TOS changes to agree to as resellers, not to mention new banking regulations. The banking regulations don't bother me at all. Terms of service doesn't bother me at all. Yeah, I don't like a lot of that stuff. I'm not saying I agree with it or anything else like that. But when it comes to the amount of money I make doing this, it's worth the hassle any day of the week. I mean, it would be a joke if I didn't. The minuscule amount of time it takes to read something, and then I'm done with it. If there's something I got to follow a rule, I just write it down on the board and make sure that we change it, you know, in the process. I've got an SOP, standard operating procedure. Believe it or not, I do have that for listing and a bunch of stuff we do. Most companies, every brick and mortar store you ever go to has an SOP. Standard operating procedure for everything in that store. Whether the employees know it or not, I'm sure there's a book somewhere for an SOP for every aspect of every store out there. That's what I saw everywhere I worked. So have that set up. You can change it and remove something if eBay changes the terms of services. It's going to happen. They've changed the terms of service pretty much every single year. You know, you just move with it and you go on, you know. But you got to spend some of your time to at least look into what's going on. Don't just say, I'm going to ignore it. I don't ignore any of the aspects on eBay. I may forget about it after a little while because there's so much stuff coming down, but I corrected the issue when it happens. If they change what I've got to do for something, or shipping, or how I can ship, or quantity shipped per bulk shipping label, or whatever the case may be, I just, you know, mark it down. If it messes up on me, I mark that down, see what happens, and I change it up to match what eBay says I'm supposed to do. You know, I'm in this for the long haul. I'm not going to just get frustrated. I know it's easy to get frustrated and bogged down by that, but when eBay changes something like that, don't think of it as, again, this comes back to separate yourself from business and pleasure. You've got two different U's is what you need. You know, business side, you know, what do I got to do to get my business going? If you worked for somebody else, they change stuff all the time. Every time, but at least you have some say. If there's something they change and you don't want to have to mess with items that they change that to, don't sell those items anymore. I hate clothing. I don't sell clothing anymore. I like books, but it wasn't worthwhile, so I don't sell books anymore. You know, I do mess with leather jackets, I have to say. I have a big collection of leather jackets. I probably have like 100 right now in my personal collection. I love leather jackets, but anyway. Hey, Duncan VR, another Australia folk there. Happy New Year to you as well. Nancy, how you doing, Nancy? Hopefully you are doing well, and thank you very kindly. Again, the topic, it's for those who are new, if you're just starting off, don't get discouraged by this. And this isn't a sky is falling video. This is, if you put your cards together, you don't throw all your eggs in the same basket, you are diligent, you pay attention to your store, you read the rules, you follow the rules, you ship when you're supposed to, you ship properly, you list properly, good photos, you're going to do fine. There's some steps you got to take, but you're going to do fine if you do what you're supposed to do. Follow the rules. That's all I can say. Follow the rules, best procedures, best practices. Paying for advertisement, in my opinion, though, isn't one of the things you need to do. Those are recommendations. Just separate those when you're doing on eBay. I don't do any promoted listings. The self-similar and the 2 max 3-day sales I run in sales and markdown have my sales just rolling. They're just rolling across. If I stop doing it for a day, it starts to slow down. So it works perfectly fine. It's just a little extra work. Again, we were dead in the water for a little while after October 12th. Not just a couple dozen items a day on a couple of days is what we were selling, which was not us. Once we started doing this, it's fixed it. You know, it's turned it into one of them, it probably would have been the most productive Christmas December I've had, but again, we took off a quarter of the month. We didn't get much sales, and I still did thousands, but we didn't get what we normally would, I guess is the point. Hey, Linda Schmidt, thank you very kindly. Hey, William, how you doing? I believe you are in England. Hopefully things are going there well. Boot sales is what I always hear the conversation over there. Thank you, William Curtin. Judy S., hello. Judy, how are you doing? Shandeals, AdTex LLC, good evening, good evening. Wanda Greer, how are you doing? North Carolina. Greenville, I've been there. We actually have some relatives. I know a guy who in Greenville built himself a log cabin with only one hand. He actually cut his, well, I won't go into the details, but he built himself an actual big full-size log cabin, and they lived in it for a while. We actually went and seen it when I was a child. He was an Ohioan, which was weird that he wanted to do all that, but, you know. Golfing in Style, how are you doing? Well, thank you very kindly. I've been to Canada many times. We've spent some time. In fact, if the pandemic wasn't here, the family, we were all going to be in Canada sourcing. I've been to Niagara Falls many times. Canada's very nice. I've always had a very nice time. Vancouver was wonderful. Montreal. I've been all over up in Canada with the family mostly. Quebec was wonderful too. Some people weren't very polite there, but anyway. That's the only place we had impolite people was there, and they all, I'm not going to get into that, but it was a very nice trip every time we went. Junie Arnold, how are you doing? Portsmouth. I've been to Portsmouth before. We drove all over through New England when I was working for Einstein Brothers, and I think all told we spent 6 weeks total. I got to bring my wife, and my oldest back then was I think a year old, and we all traveled together. My boss was great. Einstein Brothers. Lou was the bomb. Some folks who've been watching me for a while know who Lou is. I got a whole video on that guy. The best boss I've ever had in my entire life, anywhere, ever. I swore I would do anything for that guy. Still would. It's been years since I worked for him. The guy was just the bomb. Anyway. St. Paul. I've been there too. Picnic postcards. How are you doing? I do love postcards. Doing it wrong. How are you doing as well? No lead in. William Curtin. How are you doing? Yeah, I wanted to cover the topic straight on off today. Hey, Crystal Walters. How are you doing? Hopefully you're still waltzing out there. Semperfi 1918. How are you doing as well? One of my best friends was in the Marines for a while. Went to the Desert Storm and the whole works. Real good guy. He's actually the third. Well, I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to give out personal information, but real good guys out there. Post Road Photos, how are you doing? From Connecticut. I drove all over through Connecticut, too, quite some time. We flew into Portsmouth up there, actually, and one time, and then I did Logan half a dozen or more times up there. Didn't like landing in Logan, but anyway. Ronald Reagan was pretty cool, at least where you land. It was neat driving around or flying around up there. John 21, how are you doing? I spent some time in Chicago, the Windy City. I've got an uncle that lives there. As a child, we actually spent, I think, 2 nights in a high-rise with a panoramic window view of downtown. It was awesome. I was like 9 or 10, and it was probably the neatest thing I had seen at that point. I had some good time in Chicago. I Run Amok, good name there. How are you doing? Happy New Year again, John, to you too. Hey, Black Crystal Dice, how are you doing? Good to see you back in house here. Marketplace Boutique. We did. We had a wonderful time, as a matter of fact. Dana, it looks like Mississippi watching. I lived in, so many places. We lived in Newton for a little while. Collins. We actually had a house in Mendenhall. We actually had 2 houses in Mendenhall that we remodeled. Mendenhall, Hickory. I want to say there's one more place, but those are the main ones. I did say Collins, Mendenhall, Hickory. Bay St. Louis area we stayed in too for a while, but I was all over. We used to do the Goodwill in Jackson, if you know where that's at. They actually run auctions there, or they used to in the back of the building, and we used to get some real good deals on records there. My first $1,000 plus record came from that Goodwill in Jackson. I don't remember the street, but when you're going up the main highway into Jackson heading north, it's a big boulevard, I think there's a strip down the middle. It's on the left side when you make a right off the main boulevard. I don't know, what is that, 98? I can't think of the road. I've lived so many places, but that was an awesome place. There was a real good old-time shop in Hattiesburg, and I've called this out before. Somebody asked me on it. If you're going to the coast, to the main road through Hattiesburg, you've got the stadium there. On the left side, there's a little outlet. I think there used to be an old schoolhouse, big huge school building out there that was an antique mall, but before you get to that, it's a big white building. It's all boarded up, at least it was white, and inside this is a 2 or 3 story building. It used to be an antique place, and it's just packed. The gentleman passed away, from what I understand, and the building is just sitting there. No one, from what I understand either, has gotten in there. I don't know who owns it at this point, but man, we scored out every time we went to that when that guy was open. I'd love to have tracked down who owns it if I was living locally. That's the type of targeted sourcing I would go after. Whoever is owning that building now, hopefully they didn't just dump all that crap out, most people say, but that store was packed. You had to walk, things would fall. It was packed like 10 feet tall. It wasn't safe. It was a fire hazard for sure, but I saw a lot of places like that in Mississippi. That's a targeted source location. If I heard about something like that here locally, I'd figure out who owned that building, where it was. I'd spend some time. I'd stop. I'd peek in the windows to see if I could see if stuff's still there. I'd go to every extreme. I'd figure out if it was, the bank owned it. I'd offer the bank some money if maybe I could take a look in there if I found anything. Clear some stuff out, whatever. That's the type of target sourcing I do. But people asking, what do I mean by target sourcing? That's targeted sourcing. Vintage Vagabond Vens, how are you doing? Welcome back in. Dave Garcia, thank you very kindly. We flew into California, Whittier area, Los Angeles. I was working for Einstein, and they had their Whittier plant made bagels for McDonald's back in those days. It was one of the biggest bagel factories. It was owned by Einstein Brothers. It was Noah's Bagel back then in those days, I think. Because Einstein bought Noah's Bagel and Bagel, and I think maybe even a couple other smaller ones. And then they got the deal to do the McDonald's breakfast bagels, is what the factory did. They weren't marked Einstein, but that's who they were made by. Jess Kukluk, how are you doing? What's up back at ya? Scary movie reference. Hey, Michelle, how are you doing, Michelle? Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you are tagging along and it is growing for you as well. I know you've been around and followed for quite some time. It's always nice to see you online, Michelle. Winter Crow, how are you doing? How are you doing? Good to see New Jersey. I've only been in New Jersey once, and it was around 9/11 is the only reason. I don't remember where we were even going to, but it was so close when we were in New York that we just popped on over. I had to go to Jersey Shore. That's what we went to, but yeah, I know, Jersey Shore, but yeah, we went. I went to the shirt store. I think we even still have a shirt from there. Winter Crow, how are you doing? Pop on down. Artie Mike, hey Artie, how you doing? Let me shout out for patrons. I will probably have the second half to the 35mm slide deep dive tomorrow. It's been a pretty hectic week here. Again, once I got back, I had to catch up. It took 2 days to restart store and listings and turn stuff off, and shipping I spent like 6 hours packing up on one day and a couple hours the next, and finally caught back up on most things. But I will have, I think, if it's not tomorrow, it'll be Saturday. Either way, I will address any questions, comments. I'm going to be doing a video for those in Patreon too on some, in fact, there's quite a few things. Aubrey, I think, found some interesting items we're going to discuss. So if you got any other items, post them on the community tab for those in the video level, and I will be going over in a video those. I will have a live show for a store review coming up too for Patreon, so keep an eye out. I also have, in fact, let me give you a hint. I got a deep dive on cheap scrap where you can make some money and how that whole process works too. That's going to be the next one here because I get a lot of questions. I'm going to show you some of the items I've sold that were junk for most other people that I almost paid nothing for, that I'm making good money, where you can make an income off of junk. And I'm talking junk, even junkier than the stuff I sell. But it comes back to like junk journals and stuff like that, which I've talked about. Got a video on that too. But I know I'm rambling. Let's move back on down here. Kansas Picker, how are you doing? I know I've been through Kansas with the family, but I don't think I remember anything in Kansas. I just bought a Talking Heads shirt at Goodwill today. Well, congrats. Little Creatures was my favorite album. It has Road to Nowhere is on there, Stay Up Late, And She Was, Television Man. There's a bunch. That whole album, I was talking. Album's pretty good. I like heavy metal, I like rap. I like a lot of stuff, but I don't mind Talking Heads at all. His True Stories, he did a movie. He's done a couple, but David Byrne, that is. Hello, hello from Hooker, Oklahoma. How are you doing, Tommy Z? In fact, we just listed some postcards, RPPCs from Oklahoma, and some from Hays, Kansas. What's the city? Wewoka, I think. We listed a bunch from Wewoka, Hays. Geez, I can't remember where the other one's from, but there's a couple from other Kansas cities. Geez, I can't remember. We just listed a whole bunch of RPPCs this morning, hundreds of dollars worth. Hopefully they're doing well, Tommy. Marjorie, the Stuffologist. Again, I always like that name, too. Good choice. From Florida. I used to be a vendor, a seller in Florida. I used to set up at Renninger's. I did Mount Dora on Mondays. I used to get out there at 4 in the morning. And when I didn't set up or had a kid or the wife going out there with me, they watched the booth and I purchased while I was out there. I did phenomenally well back in those days. If you had a choice to go to Mount Dora, Renninger's, now there's a Renninger's. They do like every month or so. They have the big, huge flea market. And then Webster's is every Monday, I think it was back in those days. If you have a choice to do those versus the St. Cloud, avoid the St. Cloud. Webster's was always 10 times better than the St. Cloud flea market for those in Central Florida area. Orlando used to have one too. In fact, there used to be some really nice antique stores down in Orange Avenue. There used to be a place called Rock and Roll Heaven, and I used to be able to get good records from there. The guy who ran it was a trip, man. I won't go into his details, but he was a really cool guy. Let's just leave it at that. If you ever get a chance to go, and those stores are still there, Rock and Roll Heaven was like a staple for us. We used to go there all the time. And then there was a place in, I can't remember the city, but it was called the Atomic VERO comic book store. And I lived in that place for a while, too. And then NCS 1701 was a great store, too. And then, or what was the other one? Intergalactic, I think maybe it was called. Anyway, I know I'm rambling again. I do that a lot. Where are we at here? Jason Blake, how are you doing? Good evening as well. Marketplace Boutique just got a VERO for Bunt. Now, you would never have gotten a VERO for that name brand probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That's why I say a lot of stuff is now going to be risky to sell. It only takes a few VEROs of stuff like that where you're not looking it up close enough, or they might not be on the VERO list. That's why the VERO is honestly, I think, one of the biggest dangers right this second for every reseller who does thrift stores, garage sales, and everyday household items. Video games, different story. You can get VERO'd on Amazon. Right now, I don't see it's a concern on eBay, but clothing is like one of the worst ones. There's a ton of brands I can't mess with on Amazon. Way, way more I can't mess with on eBay as well, too, in some cases. And some that are risky. Some that you run a risk if you don't use proper terminology and things like that, too. One thing a lot of people do is, if they don't know and it looks like a brand, they'll put that it's that brand. That's one of the no-nos you never do. Or like or resembles or similar to, or you use the word brand name and then the word style next to it, in the style of. You can't do any of that stuff. That's all where a lot of people get VEROs from, or hits from stuff like that, copyright infringements. The majority of the ones that people show me, and I get shown stuff like that like all the time. Sometimes every day of the week somebody sends me something they got dinged for about stuff like that. Most of them, the ones that they're getting in trouble for, are ones just like that. They're using a brand name when it's not that brand to kind of infer it's a style. You can't use one brand name to market some other item. I don't care if it looks like it. I don't care if it resembles it. I don't care if it's patterned off of it. Don't do it. You'll get yourself dinged. Anything you do has to follow the rules. Whatever you do in life. You need a driver's license to drive. You need a permit to hunt or fish. Again, there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. Those permits help pay so that you can keep hunting and fishing. Was a very avid fisherman. I love fishing. Brim, bluegill, sunfish, crappie. Love walleye here. We fish walleye once in a while down the Maumee, but I love fishing, if you don't get that. We used to go to a place called Metzger's Marsh out by Davis-Besse Nuclear Power Plant. It's one of the best places I used to catch bass out here in Ohio. But let's see where we at. Well, good luck with that Marketplace Boutique. Hopefully it didn't hit you too hard. Yes, Dave, Taxman is coming for sure. Again, if you're a business, you're supposed to report your taxes anyway. Let me throw a wrench in some of those folks who think they don't want to report all of their income. if you're working for somebody and you've got steady income coming in, you get a paycheck every month, you can get loans, you can get leases, you can get all kinds of stuff because you've got steady income working for somebody who's an established business. As a reseller, you're not taken seriously. And I know it from personal experience. I had talked to Kat, Nurse Flipper, on we chatted this morning. She wanted some information on a BOP. I have a BOP, Business Owner's Policy. I have insurance. The company that I have current insurance, as well as several of my patrons have used them too, last week stopped offering insurance for resellers. So, there's very limited how you can get it. If you don't own a house and your underwriter for your home owner's insurance may not cover a business in your dwelling, so you've got to wonder and worry about stuff like that. Some of them won't cover that. It's limited, so you have very limited options. If you want to be able to get loans and leases, you have to show a steady income. You have to show an increase. You have to show a certain level of income. For those who think that I just won't pay as much taxes and I won't report this, or I'll fudge my numbers or stuff like that, it's going to hurt you when it comes down to you wanting to grow your business. If you want to grow your business, you want to report as much income as you can possibly report legally. You don't want to be making stuff up. It's not what I'm saying, but underreporting or any of that stuff can get you in trouble with the IRS. It can hurt you when it comes time to deal with banks. If you want to get like a letter of guarantee from a bank, you've got to do some steps. You've got to show numbers. You can't. A letter of guarantee will mean that you can buy merchandise without paying for it for so many days, where you can sell enough of it before the bill is due to actually make money off of it and never have to pay for the merchandise. I can get something. It's basically a 30-day net amount due at the end of the month. So I buy something in day 1 of a month. I've got to the 30th of the month to pay for it. That's when the invoice comes due. That's what big business and corporates do. It's 30, 60, 90-day cycle is what they do. 90 days, it's turned over. They may stop doing business with you. If you pay in the first 30 days, there's no fees. You don't have to pay it when the product is delivered. That's the point. So if I leverage that well, I can get merchandise delivered to me at my place or whatever I'm doing. I can sell it for 30 days without having to pay the person who's selling me the merchandise. You can't do that if you're not reporting your numbers. You can't do that at all. That's how you get free merchandise and make money off of someone else's stuff. They want to sell it. They can't sell it all themselves when you buy a wholesaler and bulk purchase like that. So it's fine with them. They can sell it to a whole bunch of different vendors that way and let them deal with selling it. But for us, it's a good deal if you do that. Because I sell enough if I buy the right items before the bill's due, and I've already made a profit. I've never had to shell out my own money. I'm letting the bank guarantee that purchase is going to go through, and if it doesn't, the bank will cover it. But they're not going to do that if you're not reporting there's any questionable activity in your finances or your banking aspects. You want to report that. You want to be able to go get a car loan or get a house or whatever else. You've got to report those numbers if you want to be treated like a normal person working for somebody else. They don't see us that way yet. It'll change, but that's not how they see us these days. You're not going to be on the same level as someone else who is working for somebody else, who's working for a big company. You won't be treated the same at a bank without reporting as much as you humanly can make for your business. It's not a panic mode. Everybody has the opportunity. It'll take you time, but that's what your goal should be, to get your revenue as high as you can. That's how businesses do it. It's not being greedy. That's not me being only worried about money. The money isn't really the aspect. It's being taken seriously. It gives me more buying power, more loan power if I need to get a loan, more everything. It puts me in a better standing financially as a company, as a business when I do that. Don't underreport anything. If you want to get a house sometime, try and get a loan as a reseller without having a ton of income or without growing your business. It's very, very hard. I looked 10 years ago when we weren't doing this well. I've looked before that. I probably looked 8 years ago or so. But the point is, we're looking for a bigger place. So I know what you need to have. I know you have to have your ducks in a row. I know that you have to be by the book. You again, don't think of it as you following eBay's rules to save eBay. Think of it as you're following the rules that will take you to the next level with your store. Who cares who you're having to follow the rules for at this point? You can go to a different platform. You can sell different things. You don't have to keep up with every little aspect. You can just change your business if you need to. But if you're working for somebody else, you don't have that option. You've got to cover all bases. You've got to report that income. You've got to be honest. You've got to be straight. You've got to have a working relationship with a bank. How can I come out and buy $25,000 worth of merchandise and not even have to shell out $25,000? That's how you can do it. You've got to be up and up. You've got to follow the rules. You've got to be that better person. And again, this is business. That's your business aspect. As a business, a local business, which we are, we do other stuff besides reselling. You want to be in good standards. So don't do stupid stuff on your own personal time either that could get you in trouble legally. You don't want to be on the news. You don't want all that stuff. I know that's a little side note, but let's move back here. Again, if you're enjoying the conversation, I got 422 people in-house, 158 likes. This is all key topics. This is all truth. I don't care what anybody says. This is what's going on. This is the truth. This is what's going to take you to the next level. It's the end of story. If you didn't see the whole video, go back. Everything in here is the truth. I'll swear by it. This is how it's going to get, how it's going to be. It's going to get tougher, but it's all doable. It's all doable. Everything is doable here. If I'm still able to keep my sales top notch, highest they've been right now with all this BS going on, pretty much anybody can do it if you dig down and you dig into it. It's not just going to be you start selling today and next week you're going to be rolling in the dough. It doesn't work that way. It took us 3 years of doing it the hard way and just barely getting by. 3 years of doing it. Took me 3 years to get every little aspect going in the right direction. It's not easy. It's not, especially when you start with zero money. You got kids. There's no jobs. People aren't donating. It's all doable though. It takes time and dedication. Yeah, they are going up in January. I don't want to miss anybody. The Cherry Picker, how are you doing? We did have a fabulous Christmas time. It was, again, the only thing I missed was not having snow. We spent some time, I've got some video on the roads through the mountains. We went hiking on a ridge out in the middle of, nowhere. We stayed in some cabins, several different cabins in different states and areas. I like peace and quiet. And I'll play some video clips in it here and there, just a few seconds here so you can see. You can't hear a single solitary noise of anything out where we were. The nearest cabin or person from us was probably a quarter of a mile away in one direction, and in any other direction there was nobody, as far as you could see with binoculars even. It was a wonderful experience. We've done it before. It's nice to get away and just totally turn off. There was no internet, no phone. I had to use my cell phone if I wanted to broadcast or do anything else like that to pick up anything out there. And that was only if the weather was good. We were so far out in the middle of nowhere. It was just really a wonderful time. We took our dogs with us, the whole works. They're getting older and stuff, so you can't beat it. We threw the family in the vehicle and off we went. It was a very enjoyable experience. The drive even no traffic. We picked a perfect time to go. We stuck around past Christmas so we wouldn't be stuck in the traffic. Everybody going home after the holidays. And it was one of the best ones. Snow wise, I wish there was snow though. I just always wish that. Linda Van Omerin. Hopefully I pronounced that right, or at least didn't botch it too bad. How are you doing there? Hi from Central Michigan. I've been all over Michigan. I love Michigan as well. Annie, Dave, I messed up on the date for the shoot, my brain's dead now. I'm going to have a live video coming up here. We're going to have a special live show. I'm going to have some folks from Patreon. Annie's going to be on there as well as a few other folks. Geez, I messed up on the date. It's going to be the 13th Thursday, and Dave called it out to me. For some reason I put 14th Thursday. I originally was going to have it on a Friday, but since I messed it up, we're going to run it on the 13th of this coming up month. I'm going to have some folks on here. We're going to have a big group roundtable, and we're going to brainstorm. We're going to show you a brainstorm. I'll be MC for the night. I've got some folks coming on. We'll throw a bunch of topics out. You'll get to hear from some longtime sellers as well, people that I trust and do respect. Annie is great on a lot of stuff too. She's got a channel. I would recommend checking her out if you haven't as well. But overall, if you want to see some other ideas, some other thoughts, we're going to have that on the 13th, 8 o'clock, and that's January 13th. I know I'm a little behind on sending out the notices, but I was trying to get some time so I can figure out how many total I'm going to have on the first one that we do. I'm on the non-paid version of StreamYard. I'm not still set up. I'm not a big fan of StreamYard overall. I like the old ways, but anyway, I'll have that to you, Annie, here for sure before the weekend is through, so everybody can set up their plans for those who are going to be on that with me. It'll be live here on YouTube, that live show. Yeah, Vintage Vagabond vans. There is going to be a lot. Again, I can't overstress this enough that if you're not diligent, you're not that lean, mean reselling machine, you're not going to do very well. What a lot of people get discouraged if they don't do very well, and they're doing this for 6, 7, 8, 9 months, and they're still not getting any ground. They're not getting that beachhead going on. They're not able to advance it. A lot of people get frustrated. A lot of folks expect it to be a lot easier than it is because they watch videos where people tell them it's easier. For some people it is. Other 3%, my guesstimate is it's 3% of those who are reselling find some niche right off the bat, some easy place to get something that no one else is messing with, and that 3% just flies from right off the bat. I'm not in that 3%. It took us years to get to this spot. I've been doing it for going on, 14, 15 years, basically full-time at this point. So it's not some short path. This is my life from this point going forward. This is my long-term goal, is to keep doing this, keep growing it, and keep advancing it. I got a book coming out real quickly here too, but we've been somebody reached out, and I might have a real publisher for it, like a full-fledged publisher for my guidebook. And the deals for Patreon would still be there at the same quoted numbers, but anyway, I'm waiting on that because if I can't push it out locally until I know if I'm going to have some deal, because the overall goal would be to be a bigger broadcast, and there'll be actually hardbound books. But anyway, long story short there. One good thing about being on YouTube, you get people sometimes that see a video and reach out to you for stuff, but anyway, it wasn't my goal to get on YouTube to get that, though. Yeah, Annie's from Salem. I've been in Salem. There was I got a picture. We were going through, and we stayed at the House of Seven Gables for 2 nights. There was a place called Bunghole Liquor that was in Salem, and we had to get a sign. In fact, we spent 10 minutes driving around so we could get back in front of the building just to get a picture for a friend of ours. A bunghole is the part that the spigot, I can't think the technical name, but the plug for the barrel of whiskey or something would be. That's the bunghole. Beavis and Butthead made a big thing about that in an episode, if you know what that is. Salem's very nice, though. Annie knows about a lot of the shopping and collectibles up there, because we went to Brimfield's up there, and she knows Brimfield's well too. I loved Brimfield's. That was probably one of my top 2 favorite sourcing places in this country. It's going to be, we got that one. Dave Gressix, for resellers, we got to pay taxes now. You had to pay them before if you were making a profit. That's the point. So it's not a change. It's just a way to get people, it's to force you to do what you were supposed to do from my standpoint. If you didn't make a profit, if you sold $600 and you didn't make a profit, you don't have to report it. You don't have to pay taxes on it, I should say, because you're not getting a profit. So if you just sell a bunch of stuff out of your house just to get some money coming in and you're not making anything on it, you're not a business. You're not making a profit. It's not a collectible thing. You don't have to technically report it. You can report it as a loss, though, or a donation if you donate stuff, if you itemize. Yeah, I know I'm yapping here. Again, if you're enjoying it, I'm still over 400 people in house. Please slam that thumbs up. I've got over 400 people at this point, 192 thumbs up. I still like the Disgruntled Octopus. Australia, yes, very nice. Thank you for being in as well. Barbara Engro, how are you doing? Wanda Greer, do you have to have a special account with UPS to use them? You can use them through eBay without having an account, but we do have a UPS representative that actually we have an account with them, and we have a representative. They've actually called. We've talked to them on the phone and all that kind of stuff. They set you up if there's some special needs you have and things like that. They'll ask you volume, what you're shipping and stuff before you get a rate. The deal I get, some items are a little bit cheaper than eBay, very few, but eBay is probably the best bait. Just go through eBay if you want to use UPS. Dropping it off is usually easier, cheaper for you as well. Where are we at here? Vintage Vagabonds is from PA. I spent some time in Pittsburgh. Steelers, I'm not a big sports fan, but I know somebody asked those questions for me. Dave Garcia, there goes my plan to keep my resellers to under 20K to avoid the tax. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. That'll get you in trouble. Even if eBay isn't technically reporting it, there's information out there. If the IRS wanted to look into you, they could get the information that you sold that regardless. The post office is a federal agency, and they can see how much you mailed if you mailed it through eBay. Keep that in mind. They can even possibly see the dollar amount of the items you're sending out. The post office can, because of the link through eBay. Again, eBay has a back portal. Federal and government agencies have access to that. So if you think you're going to bypass it because of even last year or the year before, you run the risk. I know someone personally from 8-10 years ago who didn't report it for years, and he got busted because of something like that. They figured out how many packages he was mailing, and one agency contacted another one, and boom, he was in FBI, came to his, it was a bunch of stuff, wire fraud they try to get him on, and a whole bunch of other things. Don't screw around with that. It's not worth risking. If this is how you make a living and pay your bills, feed your kids, put a roof over your house, do the right thing. It's a no-brainer. Businesses, I know a lot of corporate America doesn't do the right thing, and they try to play it off, but as my size of business, I have to do the right thing. I would never risk the well-being of my loved ones by doing something stupid or against the law. It wouldn't be practical. It would hurt my income. It would hurt my revenue. It would hurt my reputation for local business that I deal stuff with. You know, I do artwork. I do other things just besides this, so I can't risk it. It's just not worth it. St. Paul, Minnesota is where Artie Mike is from. Winter Crow, how can they throw you out of a store? It's private property. They can ask you to leave from any store. You have no right to be in any place of business without their permission. Keep that in mind. I've been asked to leave Target twice and Walmart once. One of them, they were really nasty at Target. I mean, they didn't want me buying a bunch of stuff. I had a cart full of stuff, too. I just had to leave it in the middle of the aisle. You know, so yeah, anybody can ask you to leave. You have no rights going into any store in this country because it's all private property. You know, you can't tell them what to do. If they've got a sign on the door that says you need to wear this or have this on, that's the rules of that private business. You have no say, no stake. That has nothing to do with the Constitution. That has nothing to do with your freedom or anything else like that. It's a private company. It would be like if you want to go with that route, it would be like somebody just coming in your house and saying, I'm just going to come in your house because it's my freedom to enter your house. It's the same thing for a business. They can ask anybody to leave. They could ban you from the store for life if they wanted to. Walmart does that all the time from what I've seen. Anyway. Marketplace Boutique. I have that issue without filming, or thrifts don't want me to buy. I don't film most of the time when I'm outsourcing. So when I was in Walmart or Target, I wasn't filming. When I'm out, my business is reselling. So if I'm out, my business generally is not trying to do YouTube videos. That's why I don't do a lot of the sourcing videos like a lot of people do. But my business was to go to Walmart or go to Target, scan as many items as I can find where I could possibly buy, purchase, make a good profit, send them in FBA as an RA, retail arbitrage. That was my goal when I'm there. I go in, I do what I'm doing, and off I go. I'm not, it's a business. So that was my goal on that stuff. I didn't have a camera. They didn't know who I was. They just didn't want me sitting there buying every package of this item, all the toys and clearance where I could make $5 or $10 or $20, whatever the items were at that point. If I could find 50 of the same items and make $5 for each one of those, at the end of the day, I'd probably do that too, especially if it's FBA. Because once they're in, I don't have any more labor involved into them. And I'm getting $5. I'll sell 50 of them, make a couple $100 from just buying them, throwing them in a big box, and mailing off to Amazon. Hey, Dave, Midwest Picker, another fellow channel member here, or their channel. If you haven't checked out Dave's a good guy too. Midwest Picker there. His channel is very readily found. Amazon Seller 99, how are you doing? Happy New Year to you as well. Yeah, I remember the boards, the forums on Amazon as well, too. I see it in real life. I saw it while we were on vacation. I saw it just this past Christmas where people... Now, it wasn't wasn't necessarily like antique mall and stuff like that. It was in like retail arbitrage situations. Because if I could have found, enough RA at a store while we were out too, I would have bought it and then shipped it off at one of the local centers on the road. I've never even had to bring it back. I would have just had to have picked it up, boxed it while we're on the road. And I usually carry tape and stuff like that if I'm doing that. But there's a lot of road haulers who will do RA while they're out. Nothing wrong with that. I have no problem shipping from out of town to one of the Amazon facilities. It doesn't bother me at all. Smoky Blizzard, Nebraska, how are you doing? Barbara Engro, I don't get that. They are making money and resellers are making money. I also don't mind if drop shippers pick my inventory. We can all make money. I don't mind a drop shipper. In fact, a couple of the guys who write books on some of the collectibles I sell actually buy from us and make some money off. I don't care. I got my price. If I set a price and that's what I get out of it, I don't care. I don't care if somebody else does. I can see the big businesses side of it. They want to control their own items. We've got an account on Amazon. I can sell on Amazon, or not on Amazon, on Walmart. I do sell on Amazon now, but they all want to control their markets. They all want to control their items. Nike wants to control who uses their name, who's selling their merchandise. They don't want somebody to be construed as working for Nike when they don't work for Nike. That's the point. I get that point. We have trademarks. I have a company name. I've got some other TMs that I use for some of my other products. I have copyrights that we own. I would be bothered if somebody used it to sell their products, or if somebody else sold it and then assumed that it was me selling it. I would be bothered. And I understand that aspect to some extent. I do think, though, if it's a used item and you're not selling in bulk, there should never be a issue where you should have to worry about it. You should have some rights that you bought it. Again, if you're doing one item at a time, if you're doing hundreds of the same brand just because you can, that's a different story. Again, I'm not trying to stick up for that side of it, but I see it from both sides. I run a business. This isn't my personal opinion. This is my business opinion based on me running a business, based on me doing similar items and selling it similarly. The definition of reseller is every company out there. Walmart is a reseller. Amazon is a reseller. Look it up. That's the business definition of a reseller. It's any business that buys products to resell. So even though we use the term reseller for us, it's everybody who sells something. That's a reseller. Every business that sells product is a reseller. As a business term, that is what it means. So there's more to it, I guess. Let's see where we at. Let me slide down a little bit farther here. William Curtin, there was an ad on web retailer by a VERO law firm. I unsubscribed. You'll see those. When you run ads, if you're running a blog post or something and the ad's on there, the blog post is making money off of those, for those who don't know. Obviously, William understands that, though. So, I stopped doing and dealing with stuff because of that. I don't buy it from Kroger's ever again. We totally cut Kroger's off after they screwed us over for the 6th time, and it was just awful experiences at Kroger's. And I'm a lifelong Kroger shopper. I won't go back to Kroger's. I don't care if I got to drive 10 miles out of the way. I won't go to Kroger's anymore. I'm done with Kroger's. They didn't respond. They didn't address the issue. I've called the store 6 different times for 6 different bad experiences, and not once did they do anything. And then come to find out, my local Kroger's, the general manager was on vacation for 2 weeks for Christmas. The busiest time of the year for his store. They were understaffed. Their pickup service was running hours behind, and the guy in charge of the whole store wasn't there. No one ever responded. No one gave me a regional name. Called corporate. No one. All they could do is send me a message stating that they're behind due to the amount of contact information they're getting. So I'm done with Kroger's, and I'm a principled person. I'll stop using somebody for reasons like that. Just like what William is saying up there. There's nothing wrong with that. We've got Myers up here, and that's where we go. Not the Fred Myers that Kroger's owns. I looked up every company that Kroger's owns, and we're cutting them off, as is my family. It's going to cost Kroger's probably on an average month, what did we figure, like $1,000 a month bare bones minimum just from my family, my personal family. It might cost them $3,000, $4,000 a month because none of my family's going to shop there anymore. So it's a family boycott, I guess you'd say. So they're lack of response to this is going to cost them $45,000 in sales over the year for 5 different family households of my family that won't buy from them anymore, because we were all inconvenienced by a couple of those issues. So I hold by my guns and stuff like that. Bill Jones, how are you doing there? Yeah, Bill Jones, I'm not saying there's not opportunities, but for the average person, it's going to get harder and harder for retail arbitrage. That's all I'm saying. We still do it. Don't get me wrong, I still do it. And I still even go into that Target even after being thrown out. They haven't told me never to come back again yet. I think I'll still do it until they tell me to never come back, just truthfully, because I have the right until they tell me not to come back. They run me out of the store for doing that or tell me they're not going to sell it to me. I just come back another day, different time or something. But let me see where we at. Yeah, I run amok. They don't want anybody else making money that they can make. Artie Mike, what does Kroger sell that is sold on eBay? I shop for groceries mostly at Kroger's, but I have sold nuts on Amazon from Kroger's that I bought in bulk, 50, 100, 125 pounds. Sometimes you can get batteries on clearance over there for 10 cents on the dollar. K-Cups are very big, very easy to make some money on K-Cups from Kroger's. And when you buy them, you're not overpricing them. You're still pricing them at what everybody else is, but you're getting them so cheap, 10 cents on the dollar from clearance, or 25 cents on the dollar, or 30 cents on the dollar is about the max I usually go to, with fees and all that stuff in there. So I've never price gouged anything, food or not. I'm still within the same range as everybody else is. I'm just not paying very much for them because it's a clearance item. The peanuts were the best one or the pecans it was last time. At the end of the year, when Kroger's makes pecan and stuff like that, pies for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and they buy all the nuts in bulk, and they never can use them because that's the holiday season. If they don't sell them then, they make less pies. They always over-order, or they used to prior years. So they'd over-order 150, 200 pounds of it. And I could get it for a quarter of what the cost was of what they were selling for on Amazon at the time if I bought them all from them. Because if it goes out of date, they don't have any use for it. They can't send it back. You can't send those things back, food like that back, once you order it from a grocery store. They can't send it to another store because all the other Krogers have already stopped making pecan pies. So what did they do with it? They bulked it out on the clearance shelf. So I learned quickly that, hey, you can do that. I talked to the guy who runs that department. When they're left over, they can call me. And then I just go buy them all. I'm not doing it this year or anymore after this, but that's the point. You can do that with some stores. You're not overpricing, you're not, gouging anybody anything. You're just selling it at the normal price. You're just able to buy it in bulk or all of their inventory when they're clearing it out. It's very specific items that we do that to. Batteries have always been good on stuff like that. The nuts are one. The pecans have always been one. We've always been able to do that because all the grocery stores make pecan pies for Christmas, for Thanksgiving, and nobody thought about that. So that's why I say that's a good opportunity. You can make a lot of money buying those. Kirkland's has 3-pound bags of pecans. Walnuts are another one. You can do it with walnuts too. So you can do Kirkland's. Local pounds. You want the 3-pound bags, and you want to be able to get them if you're not buying them in bulk. The big 5-pounders from like industrial and food industrial box size. You can still deal in nuts if you're buying 3-pound bags in bulk. So 3 pounds of walnuts, 3 pounds of pecans. All of those can sell. On average, if you can get them for $4 a 3-pound bag in bulk, you might have to buy hundreds of bags, but for $4 a bag to $4.99 a bag, you can easily get $14.99 out of those same bags in season when they're going for top dollar. So if you sell them and you're able to get them before Thanksgiving, before Christmas, you can also sell them. You don't have to get them from Kroger's if you're able to buy in bulk. That's a wholesale item. It always sells. Every year, bags of those sell. 5-pound bags for top dollar sell online on eBay and on Amazon. And they're both products you can sell without having to get ungated on Amazon. There's no VERO on any of those on there. They don't have to be name brand either. They just have to be, new, untouched, uncontaminated, sealed bags. So I've done that for quite some time. I worked in restaurants. I could sell stuff. I've sold, 25 pounds of tuna and salmon and things like that back in the day. Stuff that I could acquire from a wholesale production and stuff like that. Again, I worked for national companies. We did MDS, Marriott Distribution Services, so I could still go in and get stuff from them. You, even as a normal person, can buy from MDS, or you used to be able to a few years ago, and you could buy direct. You get it wholesale food, and sell it. All these people going to like Trader Joe's and doing all this. You can undercut all that, so you don't have to fight in lines and buy it from a wholesaler. You know, you might have to have a permit, or you might have to. I have a USDA has a license too, which some people may not have, but there's other ways to get around stuff like that too. Well, Happy New Year, Dom. You don't have to do that. Come on, man. Now you're gonna make me feel guilty. I don't think I've ever done a super chat, but thank you, Dom. We'll probably have to set something up with Dom too. As you guys know, we always do a monthly show together, whether it's on my channel or Dom's. We had a Christmas show. Again, Dom had Kat and the nurse flip around yesterday too. Thank you, Dom. Again, you never have to do that. We're friends. You don't have to do that either. I buy shit. You don't have to do that either. But thank you very kindly for the $19.99 super chat. Wanted to show support. Love the content. Well, thank you very kindly. I do appreciate that, honestly. I honestly, unless somebody does it, I don't even pay attention to that. You guys know I just ramble and start talking, and off I go. I know we're running late here. I'll probably talk for just a few more minutes. Thank you very kindly. I buy shit. Chits, if you don't know what a CHITS is, it's like a token, but it's paper usually. Lots of military chits are worth some big money. We've sold a little piece of paper that was a military chit from a officer's mess for almost $400. It was a tiny little piece of paper, good for little chit is what those are called. And it's one of the easiest things to make some big dollar money on. That's small, tiny, a little bigger than a postage stamp. So I know that name, and I know that might not be what your assumption is, or your use of it is, but chits are awesome. I've shown some in videos. Those in Patreon, I've seen a bunch too. Thank you as well, Dom, Primetime Treasure. Check him out. You guys should know him already, though, of course. Again, if you're enjoying the conversation, I'm still over 400 in the house. 226 thumbs up as of right now. Let me pop down and see if I can get to some more questions. Hey, Junk and Data Girl, how are you doing? She runs a lot of auctions. I need to check out one of your auctions again. I know I've seen some auctions on your site. I've been thinking about auctioning some stuff up, but I feel weird doing that online. I did talk to our legal wise here. I do have permission as long as I own it and I'm running it on my own and I'm not selling other people's items. I can run them online from Ohio. I did delve into that thanks to Steve Elmore, if you know who he is. He's on here somewhere too probably. But Duncan, NOS, yes, new old stock. I use sometimes terms, and I drive people nuts. Somebody talks about insurance, it's BOP to me, NOS, and new old stock, a bin, buy it now, ZIF, zero insertion fees. If you work in corporate America, they use acronyms and all that stuff all the time. It drives me crazy sometimes. If you ever watched Good Morning Vietnam, Robin Williams in there goes off in a little, he talks about, makes comical use of acronyms and the whole works too. But anyway. May, hey, how are you doing? Aloha, aloha, Hawaii, I would imagine. Hopefully you're doing well in sunny Hawaii. Duncan, I'm glad I'm selling Queen Vic covers with stamps from 1800s. All are unique. No need to worry about VERO. Yeah, most of my older stuff is copyright free. So there's no way somebody can come after me. Not only can I rip off the designs on a lot of the earlier stuff, but I can sell them without any fear or worry. And most of them are single small pieces of paper or something like that, photos or small booklets or something. Nothing to ship, nothing to store. Almost never have a return, never get lost, never get damaged in the mail. I cut out pottery not too long ago. Other than, like, I love figurines. I don't talk about it much. I love Christmas breakables too, but I did pick up some glassware, not just bottles, but some interesting cups I'm going to be showing, and some glasses, drinking glasses, some tumblers and stuff in a video I'll show out soon while we were sourcing. Found a couple really nice, I found a real nice jadeite piece for $2. So I was very happy about that. Something the wife broke not too long ago, which we'll discuss in another video. But where are we at now? I'm going to cut it off in just a few minutes. I'm running really long. The conversation's been rolling. We still have a lot of people in house today. Brenda Strelly, I think invoice on things you're selling will be across the board on all sites. Thanks to a lot of smash and grabs. Invoices versus receipts are two different things. If you're not selling in bulk, chances are you won't ever need an invoice. We went to a flea market in Geez, I'm not going to remember the town now. I got the map all drawn up. But we went to a flea market. One booth had, it was all like stuff from like an Eckerd's or something. It was all like soaps and stuff like that. The first thing I wondered is, how did they get that much merchandise like that? Then we went to another booth, and it was all dented, brand new pots and pans. But everyone had a dent in the side. I don't know how you'd sell them like that, but they must have got them for almost nothing. I couldn't imagine them making even enough to pay for the $300 it cost them for the booth. If you've never set up, I used to have booths in antique malls going back in the day, and I used to set up as a vendor at some flea markets myself, Renninger's, Mount Dora. If you don't know, the businesses that are running these antique malls or these boutique style things that have booth fees, they don't care if you sell or not. They're getting their money, their profits all come from the booth rentals. It doesn't come from you usually selling stuff. Mind you, they do usually get a commission off of your sales. It's not a whole bunch of money usually, but the point is they make all of their profit. Once they collect all the booth fees, if you sell anything or not, it doesn't matter, because they're making a huge profit just from the booth fees that they collect. The one we went to was a huge place, lots of people in there. The cheapest booth in that place was like $246, I want to say, as the lowest price I saw. And there were people in there just selling junk. I don't see how they're making any money. But anyway, that's something else you have to worry about too, I guess. Jillian had issues with them as well. Marty, Jiminy Flippin', how are you doing? I need to hit up with you with the music aspect we talked about. I'm not going to call it out here. I want it to be a surprise, but I'll have to hit you up with that too. I'm going to be sending out all the stuff for Patreon for the show coming up too. Marty's going to be on the show too. I loved Richard Pryor, stir crazy, all of his movies and stuff. I was a big Richard Pryor fan. Him and Gene Wilder. My parents took us to see Silver Streak in the theaters and the whole works. So I was a big fan for most of my life. I had all of his records and stuff. You know, it bothered me. It was offensive that how much I loved Richard Pryor and stuff, that I got hit for something they didn't even have the right to hit me for. CBS, Richard Pryor signed his likeness over and the use of his name to CBS for those publicity stills for the movies that I was selling those stills from. It wasn't a Richard Pryor authorization needed. It was already given to CBS. The only one who could have, and I know my legal rights on that. I looked it up. We have a lawyer as well. I have a legal guy. The only rights the only person that could have claimed rights for me using that would have been CBS. That's it. I wasn't misrepresenting him. His name was authorized to be used for advertisement for that film or for that item through CBS. Now, CBS could have told me I couldn't sell it because of that, but CBS did not do that. It was Richard Pryor's estate, which was bothersome. But, you know, I mean, the guy's dead. His estate wants every little dime. I can't sell a 1970s photo of the guy to a collector who loves Richard Pryor. Who else would buy something with Richard Pryor other than somebody who likes Richard Pryor? I was like, cool, Richard Pryor photo. Still have it here. I'm not going to get rid of it now. Now it's like one of those, you know, kind of things. But RP Estate took down movies that he was in. They don't own the movie rights, but eBay sided with them. Yeah, I could see that too. That's what I'm saying. You have no recourse. If it says Richard Pryor's estate or licensing agency and you have an item up, they could force eBay to make you take it down. Whether they have the rights to do it or not, you'd have to go get a lawyer, and it just wouldn't be worth it for a $30 photo or a couple $30 photos. I had a couple of them up, and they ding ban every one. Bill Jones, over 40% of my revenue on eBay. I don't even leave my house. No bots needed. Just learn different companies that knock down to 90% after holidays and old stock. Yeah, that's fine too. That's what I'm saying. There's a way to get around everything that's thrown your way. Let's just end this up here. I know I didn't get too far down it, but let's just go over a few of the topics real quick here. If you're going to be a reseller, you honestly need to be a lean, mean reselling machine. And I'm going to actually trademark that, but I'm going to put some shirts out with that one here. But anyway, so if somebody has that out, they're going to probably have some legal issues. But anyway, you want to streamline it. You want to turn it into an assembly on every bit of your process, every bit of your business. You want to save. You want to cut costs at every corner you can. Cheaper supplies, not cheaper quality, but buying in bulk. Limit what you get. I went over all these types of topics Do everything together. Stage all of your items so that you don't have to switch items, categories, and item specifics, and this and that. Anything you can stage and stagger together. Do it before you photograph it too. It'll take you far more time to do it afterwards because your photos are in a certain order if you SD card everything. Everything we do goes on SD cards, so they can be listed from any of the multiple laptops, any PCs, upstairs, downstairs, any of the other buildings, the storage facility, anywhere. I can take them anywhere with me. I took laptops on vacation with us. Always have a laptop with me, at least one or two. If there's two of us, there's always a couple laptops. We always have something with us, especially when we're staying somewhere out of town. I live by the internet. Even if I say I'm on vacation, I still sent out offers every day on vacation. I even restarted my sales. I even did sell similar on vacation while I was eating, taking some time. We got back for the day. That's what I did. I know that's not a vacation for some people, but I that's all I did. That's the only things I did. I still sent in offers. We still kept up sales and the whole works through vacation. So anyway, you're going to have to knuckle down coming forward. Anybody who wants to be a reseller in 2022 and going forward is going to have to be full-heartedly into this. Don't assume it's going to be easy. Don't assume, though, that the sky's falling and reselling's dead. It's not going to be dead, but you're going to have to get specialized in some areas that are foolproof, ones that can't be shut down. That's your biggest goal, I would say, for anybody out there, to find ways to get merchandise that can't be shut down, that can't be VERO'd. Bulk, wholesale, of course, is a good opportunity for that. RA, again, it will probably still be there in some way, shape, or form, but you can be limited more and more on RA items as well. Amazon can gate you, require invoices. eBay, in some cases, I've seen people tell me that they were asked for invoices on eBay. I don't know the whole story, haven't seen a screenshot, haven't seen the invoices, but some people that I've talked to for quite some time have stated that. True, not, I don't know. I haven't seen enough evidence. I'm not saying they're telling me to feed me a line or anything else like that, but I wouldn't put it past eBay requiring it. Again, they may have some legal obligations for some products that technically they could get VERO'd too. So if you're not willing to do that, you're not willing to dig in, you're not willing to spend the extra time, this isn't a 40-hour-a-week job at all. It's not a 50-an-hour-a-week job for me. I like putting in the hours. I'm not stressed out doing long hours. It doesn't bother me. It's natural for me. It's not stressful. I don't feel like, I want to pull my hair out at the end of the day. I don't feel like crashing at the end of the day. I don't watch TV or anything else like that until I hit the bed. If I want to turn something on, that's the only time I do it, or family movie night or something else like that. If I got time to lean, I got time to do some listings or something. If you're not willing to put the effort in now, it's going to get harder and harder. Do it now while it's easier, while there isn't so many restrictions. As years go by, corporate America is going to be putting more and more of their grips on our industries. If you're watching collectibles, NFTs, or any of this stuff, high dollars in comics, high dollars in trade cards, coin prices through the roofs, autographs through the roofs, collectibles in general, and toys through the roof. It's all corporate America getting in there, raising the values and stuff. Who else is going to be able to buy a $4,000 action figure, a $2,000 comic, a $10,000 comic, a $20,000 comic, action figures for $10,000? It's investors, it's high-end people. Who's buying that? That's who's buying it. It's not. It's being the collectibles market is being taken over by corporate America to some extent. They can't shut us out of that category, though. There's no way they can shut out toys that aren't being made, or toys from companies that don't exist anymore. A clothing brand can shut you out. Nike can shut you out, used or not. The VERO program is for used items just as much as it is for new. You can't use onesie unless it's an actual onesie, and they can still ding you. You can't use Velcro. There's a ton of brands that's coming to. That's one of the biggest risks and things and problems that you're going to have going forward. I see it. That list has gotten massive. And any company, if they want, can push it with eBay and shut down those products. If you buy products and sell products, though, that don't exist anymore, you're safe. End of story. I would always have a backup contingency plan. If you're selling brand new or name brand items of any kind, you need a contingency plan. Going forward, 100%. A contingency plan is the only way you're going to survive if you get cut out. Adult material people sellers, they lost a ton of business off of all this. The manufacturers are struggling to some extent too, because they don't have people buying it as much as they did before. So it's going to cause a tumble if something like that happens to another category. No one would have ever thought eBay would kill the adult categories, but they did. No one would thought they would cut them off from selling coins for a year or so, but they did. So you got to be careful. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. You can't say, I'm only going to sell this for now because I'm making all this money. You've got to take a 5%, 10% of your time and start looking for other items that are going to be a little safer for you. It's just a gimme. Back in the day, you could sell gun parts online. You could sell a receiver at one point online. You can't sell any of that anymore. A receiver is the biggest no-no that'll get you possibly arrested or ATF showing up at your house. Stuff like that was you could sell on eBay. You could sell vintage this, you could sell vintage that. All kinds of stuff are blocked off from selling constantly. So watch out, be careful. Don't put all your eggs in one basket unless you don't care if you get shut down at some point. So I'm going to end it on that. I know I'm way over what I usually do here. Just a lot of stuff going on in here. A lot of people are worried. It's not the end of the world. There's always a way around whatever's going on with here. We've been able to beat eBay at the game every step of the way by moving or changing or doing differently, following the rules, whatever it takes. So don't give up if you really want to do this. If this is what you really feel is you, keep at it as hard as you can. Invest your time, invest some effort. Think about it. Set some motivation. Set some figures you want to hit every single day. Always have a figure up there. If you don't hit it, it's not the end of the world. Don't change it, but still work towards it the next week. Maybe you will have to give a little less of an amount you want to get up or something like that. But don't let your foot off the pedal. Just keep going with it. Right now, if I can keep the sales going right where they're at top, within the top 1% of our sales of any time in history, anybody else can too. Again, I'm not anything special. I just play with my store. I know my items. I invest my time, and I take it seriously. When I'm off work, again, I consider this my job. When I'm off work, I'm with the family. This is all gone. I don't have to worry about this. I can relax. I can do whatever I want. It's the only job you can do that with. So if you want this, you want the freedom. And again, that's the biggest thing you get out of this is your freedom. This gives us freedom. I know we have to follow some rules, but overall, I can be anywhere, do anything I want. I can do this from anywhere. I can do this sitting in a cabin, 25 miles from the biggest city or nearest city, out in the middle of nowhere on vacation anytime I want. You can't do this anywhere else. It's not doable. This is it for us. This is what I love. This is what I like. This is my passion. This is where all my work energy goes to. If you want to be bigger, you want to have this for your business, you've got to feel like that. You've got to be invested in this. It can't just be about, I want to make some money. This will get me rich and stuff. You've got to enjoy this, in my opinion, to really be successful at it. You've got to, even if you don't like what you sell, you've got to enjoy the atmosphere, the dealings, the interactions, and all that stuff too. But I'm going to let it go at that. I do honestly and sincerely thank everyone, especially for the super chats, for following the show, sticking through here. One last time, if you enjoyed the conversation, please slam that thumbs up here. This is the truth. This is how I feel. Everything I said in here is what I truthfully, honestly see as what the stumbling blocks are going forward. It's not going to change. It's just going to get worse, but it's not going to be the end of any of this. You're just going to have to strive to beat them at their own game. But we'll let it go at that. I hope you all have a good day. Got a cool video coming out here on YouTube tomorrow, which everybody should enjoy. More sourcing trip tomorrow for you.